So now we're going to have our first panel, and this panel is going to be moderated by Dr. Forrest Carter. He's the associate professor of business administration at Michigan State University, that our little brother. It used to be a little brother, I don't know about now. And this panel consists of people who have been out there practicing urban entrepreneurship. This urban entrepreneurship is not a new thing. There are people who have been out there doing this, fighting this battle for years. And so we're going to hear from them, hear what they think, where we should go from here. I think that's going to give us a lot of guidance. So, Dr. Carter.
Thank you. Hopefully, I've had the pleasure of meeting some of my panelists. I invite them to come up and join us here. We're extremely grateful and excited, certainly about the topic, and when it comes to economic development and progress in our urban centers. I'm willing to go anywhere, as evidenced by my being here this morning. It's certainly my pleasure to introduce and interact with this panel. As David said, our topic, of course, is looking at real-life case studies around the theme of this conference in terms of folks building businesses around solving urban problems. And our five panelists, I think, kind of give a good cover the spectrum in terms of really critical urban issues. So in terms of living conditions, we have Loveland. In terms of nutrition and health, we have Fresh Corner Cafe. In terms of education, we have GradeCheck.net. And certainly with respect to transportation, we have Uber Detroit. So I'm not going to, my job is kind of stay out of the way and maybe pull together some lessons from the end. So we're going to start with Steve Bach. I'm going to have each of the panelists, I think they're prepared to kind of give you a brief overview of their business, who they are, and particularly the particular urban problem that they're tackling with respect to their business. So we're going to start with Stephen Bach of Shinola.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think there's a mic you can.
I can relax.
Yes, feel free.
This is amazing. It's like a vacation. I think it's on, right? Yeah, good. Well, I'm Steve Bach, and I work with Shinola. Shinola, in case you don't know about it, is a company that was founded about 3 years ago. It's based on a really non-traditional approach to brand building. We have a slew of product lines and a rather complicated model. We're situated in Detroit, in the College for Creative Studies, and we manufacture watches, bikes, leather goods, shoe polish, journals, and cola, Shinola Cola. If you haven't had a Shinola Cola, you don't know what you've missed. And the premise behind Shinola is really to create a brand that is based on authenticity, modern design, really great value, and great quality. And quality to the degree that we stand behind our watches today and offer a lifetime warranty. I could go on, obviously, about Shinola, but I think what you want to hear about is our association and affiliation with the city of Detroit and how we ended up in Detroit. So many books have been written about the bad things that have happened in Detroit. One can go on and one can bore oneself to death. We all know the reasons and the rationale, et cetera, et cetera. Not to diminish any of those issues, because obviously they're very, very real and they hurt a lot. We chose to look at the history of Detroit and what we believe is the future of Detroit. We see Detroit continuing as a brand unto itself with global recognition, a tradition based on manufacturing, great creativity, workmanship, and a really incredible spirit. And so the idea of bringing Shinola here and starting our factory, we have 60,000 square feet in a unique college called the College for Creative Studies, which I think is probably one of the most unique affiliations of having a manufacturing and a design and a distribution brand concept that is housed in an active college. And what we found in coming to Detroit about 3 years ago to start this whole process is that I guess I could spend 20 minutes talking about everyone that helped us, and I could spend zero time and telling you about the people that didn't help us, because there was nobody that did not welcome us to the city of Detroit. And we feel, I get goosebumps when I talk about this, we feel that we're very much part of the fabric of Detroit, and that what Detroit has done for Shinola is amazing in helping round out who we are, helping us present our product with authenticity in a very unegotistical way. We're in the watch business primarily at a price point that is somewhere between $500 and $1,000. So we're not at the high level of that kind of product, but we're at sort of an entry price point to luxury. And what this necessitated is finding people in Detroit who could help us assemble and manufacture all of these products. So with a great sense of appreciation and acceptance, we have a very great benefactor who really wants to make this successful and has funded this program in a very unique way, which puts us, I think, in a class that often is people strive for, but is very difficult to get to. So with that said, we knew we could build a factory. We knew we could bring equipment from Switzerland. We knew we could bring trainers from Switzerland to train everybody. In the last 3 years, we've gone from 3 people in this company to 320 people, of whom about 250 work in Detroit. And we now have people who are training to become watchmakers, who are building careers, who are flying back and forth between Detroit and Switzerland and learning something that has not been done in the United States for decades.
Great, thank you. Before we, Steve, just real quickly, I want to. Sure. Did you think, was there a passion or problem you saw in Detroit kind of prior to making the decision, or did Detroit kind of fit the brand model of authenticity? Which kind of came first?
Well, it certainly fit the brand model of authenticity. We strongly believe in, I guess I'd call the philosophy of optimism. We believe that swimming against the stream is the right way to do things. One can find negativity and negative implications in any city you want to go to, but there's positive everywhere, and there's plenty of positive in Detroit. And again, without being repetitive, it has such an incredible base and such an incredible history, and such a desire to be successful again, that if there were problems, frankly, they dissipated in a very short period of time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Mike Evans, who is the senior developer of Loveland Technologies.
Hello, I'm Mike. So for Loveland Technologies, it's more of a technology company, but we do it with a strong look at social initiatives that we can help work with. So the biggest thing that we've done recently that is working with Detroit is that last winter, we actually did the Motor City Mapping project, where we sent 150 people around to 400,000 properties in the city in order to get an idea as to what was going on in the city in terms of property. It's amazing when you look at cities all over the country, and we're seeing all over the world, who don't actually have a very specific idea as to what the conditions are, what are buildings, what are lots, where there's fire damage and this type of thing. So what we did with the project is these things have been mapped, dozens of times. People have gone out with pieces of paper and things like that. People have done it in terms of saying, hey, here's a data set that someone can look at. but we want to make it so that public data was actually public, so that anybody can actually see it, which is the problem, right? So when we did this, this is now data that anybody can use. Anybody can take a look at the condition data that we picked up and use it to make decisions in their neighborhoods. And so one of the products is called Why Don't We Own This? And I thought it was awesome when Dr. Robinson, you said almost specifically the name of one of our products, which is Why Don't We Own This? Because you were saying that there is this building across the street, and you guys had to go back and forth trying to figure out who owned this building and what was going on. And we find that that's a huge problem for lots of community groups who want to do things in their community. Well, of course they want to do things in their community group. But actually figuring out, okay, does the city own that? Does some dude from California own that? Does a neighbor who moved away own that? How do we get that? How do we, put a community garden on there, or help, use this as a way to sequester water, or, anything like that? It's a problem with actually having the information. And a lot of cities, they actually go through and they say, oh, yeah, we have this data that's available. It's public data. But public data is not public if the public can't actually utilize it. And so you'll see like, oh, yeah, we have a portal with, ArcGIS files or CSVs and things like that. But, one of our people work at Loveland like to use this person as an idea called Miss Jenkins. Well, Miss Jenkins cannot pull down an ArcGIS file in order to figure out what's going on across the street from her. And you even find, like in Detroit, we're finding like Mayor Duggan is notorious for wanting to get this data and not just have somebody, spit it back out to him. He wants to see it on paper. So we feel that Ms. Jenkins, we feel that the community group, we feel that the mayor should all be able to look at this information the same way that someone who has had 8 years of training can get access to it. And that's the base of what we do at Loveland, is that, once again, making public data public. And I hope that, I can talk the same way as Steve for 20 minutes, 30 minutes on this situation. So I hope that questions can be asked, or I can meet with other people. But yeah, that's the basis of Loveland, is making that public data public. And it's useful for people who are doing things in their community just to make things better, but also people who are looking to develop and spend money and invest in cities. So.
Thank you. Thank you. And next we have Sheila Mcbride. When I saw the case study video, it kind of hit me as someone with two grandsons who are hoping to go on and play at a collegiate level. The work that she's doing with Grade Check kind of hit close to home. So looking forward to hearing kind of what initially got you into the business, what motivated the passion that went into developing that business.
Sheila Mcbride, Grade Check. I actually created Grade Check out of my own personal need. My son was thinking more about sports rather than academics. And I also knew that he had the potential of and the interest of being a basketball player. And so, but what I wanted him to do first and foremost is to graduate from high school. And when he said that he wanted to play basketball at the next level, I said, okay, let me figure this out, because the NCAA gives you this packet and says you have to abide by these rules. So what I found is that my son did not have the right GPA, the right test score, nor did he have the right core courses, right? So once I identified that, and I started my system, I started an Excel document. And once I realized that the visibility made him become a better student and also receive a full scholarship to play basketball at Ohio University, I knew that I was on to something. So I created this, and a parent actually said, of one of the students that we helped get into college, she said, why don't you make this into a business? I said, well, if I make this into a business, I have to make this available for the masses. And it was past the whole technology bus. So I knew that there was a future for that. So I actually created, through the help of a developer out of Silicon Valley, California. I gave them my specs, and we really formed a really good relationship. So I took what I was doing from a manual process and created this national system that can take a student's high school transcript and test scores and compare them to any high school in the country against the NCAA eligibility standards. This is important because a lot of kids do not understand, and a lot of parents can't figure out this very rigorous process. And about every 2 to 3 years, the NCAA, they're increasing their standards. And so part of the issues are that if we're allowing our kids to play sports in our high schools across the country with a 1.6, but the NCAA is saying that you have to have a minimum of a 2.0, and when the kids graduate from high school in 2016, it's increasing to 2.3. So if you're allowing your kids to play with a 1.6, how are they going to meet those NCAA academic standards? Because those are obviously greater than the high schools, right? So we wanted to, what I realized is that my son was able to achieve that because he had the visual, he had the academic roadmap. The parents also had that mediator to help enforce getting good grades, because we always say you have to get good grades. Well, what does that mean to some of the kids? And then if they have these rigorous schedules, they're not connecting the dots. My son thought, I believe, because I know him, he thought because he was tall and good looking that a scholarship was going, land on his lap. That's not the case. So, and a lot of kids that just aren't realizing. And what I also found out, you guys, is that the NCAA says for Detroit alone, and I can name some other urban cities, that 1 out of every 3 student athletes are non-qualifiers. Those are startling statistics, and I knew, without even knowing those statistics, that there was a need for what Grade Check was all about and the service that we're providing. So within our system, we have every high school in the country in our system and every list of approved courses. If the NCAA doesn't have it, we don't have it. But if the NCAA doesn't have it, we'll have a student's transcript and can enter it into the system, but it will say no. But we also know that those classes aren't accepted by the NCAA. But it also gives us a red flag to notify high schools to say, hey, you have a kid that's on the radar of wanting to be an Aspire athlete at an institution. We need you to submit your information to the NCAA. Some schools will get off the dime and do what they have to do. Some schools will procrastinate until the end. And literally, there are kids losing scholarships because they don't see the sense of urgency. They minimize this opportunity for kids to go to college. Me personally, I did not have $100,000 to send my son to school. And also, and I will say this very humbly, I had a young black man to save. I didn't want my son just lost out in the street. So there was a sense of urgency for me on many levels being in this urban community. So I was really, really, really excited when he received that college scholarship to play basketball at Ohio University. However he got there. Education is education. Okay? And then you have students who believe enough in themselves. They got overlooked in the process. They believe enough in themselves to that they can come on to a U of M campus or Michigan State or what have you and say, Coach, can I try out for your golf team? Can I try out for your swim team? Can I try out for your basketball team? Coach will say, yes, you can, but you have to submit your information to the NCAA. Well, because no one was tracking their grades and monitoring them, those kids will miss out on a scholarship, even though that coach said, I want to offer you a scholarship, because they weren't proactive. So our involvement identifies the loopholes, the pitfalls, and allows that student to be, and that parent to be proactive rather than reactive. And it's so necessary. And you have no idea how many horror stories I see, or how many interventions we have to be a part of and make sure that this kid does not lose a scholarship. There's a real example I would give you because he's graduated now, but we've helped lots of students here at Michigan, University of Michigan. One student that stands out in particular is a student named Deshaun Sims. You guys familiar with him? He was literally on campus and was told that he wasn't eligible. So the principal said, call that grade check lady. This was years ago. Y'all know Deshaun done graduated already. Call that grade check lady. They didn't want to see me before, but call her now, right? So we ended up, I personally intervened, figured out the problem, and really it was a situation that was not the student's fault. But somewhere, someone dropped the ball. But I said under no circumstances will this baby be negatively, he was 6, but he was still our baby, be negatively impacted and lose out on the scholarship. So they had to grandfather this student in, but also students that came behind him, behind a couple of courses. So it's important that our kids are taking the right courses and that we elevate them to be better students. My son became a better student for high school because he understood that, and I always say this jokingly, but with a lot of, he had to leave my house. But he later said, Ma, you get a little bit excited. I had motivation to leave too. And that was good to hear. That was good to hear. So that's the reason why Grade Check is in existence. And we do what we do. And it's a need, and I've dedicated the rest of my life to helping our students get into college.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
And perhaps to literally help them literally get to college. All right, we have Mike White, Uber. I don't know if you would actually catch Uber to go to school, but however they get there. Mike, General Manager of Uber, Detroit.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Mike White. I'm the General Manager for Uber in Michigan. Who's familiar with Uber? Everybody's familiar. Okay, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about that. We're a technology company. We're focused on solving transportation issues. And I don't think there's anything more core to helping urban environments work and work efficiently is getting people around within those urban environments. Uber was started with the problem, and the problem was that existing transportation options were not effectively doing this in basically cities around the world. It was founded initially in San Francisco, which you think of as pretty effective transportation city. It's very dense. There's a lot of transportation options, streetcars, taxis. You'd think would all be ways to get around, but actually it's a very, very limited taxi environment. Very few taxis to get around. Doesn't always get you where you need to go. It's very difficult to drive and park in that area. Public transportation doesn't necessarily solve that issue either. So our founders developed this idea of really using technology to provide transparency, to provide information that helps really the transportation system work much more efficiently. And so by using technology, we've been able to make transportation much more efficient than it ever has been before by providing that level of transparency and an elegant solution that has essentially enabled not only initially we started with a high-end service, Uber Black, a sedan luxury service, limousine type service, but we've been able to roll it out into a system that's so efficient now that we can provide reliable, safe, quick transportation at prices much lower than even taxis have been able to do in the past because of this efficiency by using technology. So by applying technology to the problem, providing transparency to this issue, allowing drivers to have more transparency about where there's demand and where people need rides, and riders, people who need rides, to be able to see where their driver is, feel safe that the driver is coming to them and will come and get them, pick them up very quickly. The whole fabric of transportation in a metropolitan area can be much more efficient. And we've seen that impact communities in really positive ways. We're still building out some of the data in Metro Detroit, but in some of our older cities, we have really strong positive impacts. In Seattle, for example, we've shown that DUIs, because since Uber launched in Seattle, DUIs have dropped 10% in that market measurably because of the ability for somebody to be able to press a button after they had a little bit too much to drink and get a ride picked up where they are. You don't even need to know where you are. The app can find you. So you may be stumbling out of that bar and not know where you are, and it'll know where you are. That car will come to you. You get in, you get out on the other end, and you get a safe ride home. That's helping solve a problem. In Chicago, one of our older markets as well, we have the city of Chicago has identified underserved areas, so areas that aren't typically served well by taxis. And that's a question of incentives. Truly, there's regulations on the books that say taxi must go to this area and pick up people, but it's difficult to just drive around some of these underserved areas and hope that somebody's going to flag you down in a neighborhood and get a ride. So taxis just don't go there. They just don't have a reason, no incentive for them to be there. But with Uber, where there's you can be in the area, get a request to a specific location. That person now has a ride within 5 minutes. It picks them up exactly where they need to be. Now there's incentives for that driver to be in the area, these underserved areas. There's enough demand there for where they can make money going to those areas. And you have much better coverage. 40% of our rides in the city of Chicago start in a traditionally taxi underserved area. So we're able to now provide transportation options in these areas. And we're doing it at a price because of the efficiency, because the utilization of these cars is much higher. We're able to do it at a price that's typically 30 to 40% less than traditional taxis, which are sitting around outside of hotels and waiting for that one long run to the airport. Now there's a more higher efficiency of that market. So I've been really excited to be able to bring this to Detroit first in Michigan. There's a dramatic need in Detroit for transportation options. And what we've seen is that it's really been well received here. And that's what's really exciting to me is that the community has really started to use it. We've heard people being able to solve problems with this, be able to get to their job more frequently. They're biking to work and then taking it home if it's raining. There's a lot more usage happening. But on the other side, you may not think about as much is the economic opportunities that come to drivers. So all of the people who are providing rides through Uber are independent contractors who are using the platform where they like. So we have hundreds of people throughout Metro Detroit who have signed up to be drivers on Uber, are making good money on a very flexible schedule using their existing assets, using their existing car in order to make some additional money and help solve a transportation issue at the same time. So not only are we providing rides to people, but you also have the economic development of essentially jobs, essentially employment opportunities for people that could work full-time or part-time around an existing job or in between jobs when they're looking for employment, or as a supplement. Students at Wayne State or at the medical center in downtown, and also here in the Ann Arbor area, very similar situation happening. So through using technology, transparency, we're able to kind of overlay a grid of connection between drivers who now have more economic opportunity and riders who are now able to solve the problem and get more rides. So that's what we're doing, and I'm looking forward to answering some questions if you have them.
Great. And then last we have Noam from Fresh Corner Cafe, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Noam. I went to school here at the University of Michigan as an undergrad and then a master's student through the Health Management and Policy program at the School of Public Health. Go Blue. So I got involved in this work. I was very interested in the equity lens of getting into health management and policy, equal access to healthcare. That was the big focus at the time. And very quickly saw that access to healthcare is a huge problem, but really that it's maybe secondary to some of the preventative problems that could be prevented before we get into the hospital, before we need the healthcare insurance. And maybe it's less about healthcare than general health and well-being and prevention. And so I got very interested in food, nutrition, and physical activity as ways to prevent us going into the hospital and using the system. Who here has heard of the urban food desert? Is that a term that's made it? Yeah, so it's become a very popular term. I don't think a lot of people know what it means. I'm not sure I know what it means. But we know that we don't like it and we're trying to address it. In Detroit, there are very few, the literature suggests there are very few grocery stores in Detroit. In fact, there are close to 100. They're not always the highest quality grocery stores, but there are grocery stores in the city of Detroit. But what's more common is the corner store. There are over 1,000 corner stores and gas stations in the city of Detroit. And a lot of people depend on these corner stores and gas stations for a lot of their meals, whether it's 3 bags of chips for dinner or a pop and a very hyper-processed sandwich for lunch. And a lot of that is around physical transportation. So there are grocery stores, but if you don't have your own vehicle, it's difficult to go to the grocery store on a bus and spend a couple $100 and then take all those groceries back to your home. So we were looking at the corner stores and gas stations and thinking if we can leverage this expansive network of corner stores and gas stations and go from an unhealthy food retailer and transform it into a healthy food retailer, you can have a tremendous impact that's low capital and highly replicable and scalable throughout the rest of the city. So our mission is to bring prepackaged healthy salads, wraps, fruit cups and yogurt parfaits and bringing the cafe experience to corner stores across the city. So that's what we do. In that work, we've realized that the corner store work is great. It's very difficult to be profitable selling a high-priced product with a low shelf life to a low-income consumer with no stated demand for that product. So it's a tough business model, but we're working hard. And so what we've realized over time is that if we can make that break even, we're very comfortable with that relationship. And we've developed cross-subsidizing streams to support that work. So a lot of people are very excited about addressing the urban food desert, but they're not necessarily the customers who are in stores purchasing that food. So we have all these fans from the outside, from University of Michigan, from the suburbs, who are supporting this work, but we're thinking, how do you transform that social capital into financial capital so that you can continue doing your social work? So we developed cross-subsidizing streams. We have a catering business and a workplace wellness business, bringing the corner store model into workplaces, understanding that if you are gainfully employed and you work in a hospital, say in Northeast Detroit, you're suffering from the same problems of inaccessibility to fresh food as you are if you live in Detroit, in Northeast Detroit. So our goal is to bring healthy food wherever Detroiters live, work, and play. So the workplace model is a far more profitable. You're serving a more affluent customer, and we're selling direct to consumer rather than through a retailer who resells it to the consumer. And so we're able to use that profit to cross-subsidize the retail price in corner stores. And the goal is to bring, for every single workplace that we have, we'll have a corner store. And when people purchase a healthy salad in a workplace, they know they're directly supporting fresh food access in the city of Detroit in a specific corner store in a specific neighborhood. And the idea is that more than any single business or project can create an impact, awareness of issues is probably the greatest importance that we, as best practices and business models, can generate. And so if you're constantly purchasing salads and you're in your workplace, you're constantly remembering, wow, there's someone in a corner store who this is really difficult, or someone in a neighborhood of Detroit who can't always access this quality of food. And so our goal is to generate awareness as well as access.
So maybe if in a kind of a quick minute or so, we can kind of move the mic back down this way. If you can each kind of talk about kind of the essence of your business model. How do you make money?
Sure. So Uber's technology platform essentially charges a commission on the fare on each trip for making the connection between the rider and the driver.
So the driver actually gets the revenue, and then there's a commission paid to Uber?
Correct. So the actual transaction is a user sets up a credit card to request a ride. When they press a button, they get a ride. That credit card gets charged. We pass that fee through to the driver, and the driver pays us a percentage of that, basically for connecting them with that rider.
Fantastic. Great.
We have a online process to where you could sign up online. We have a gold membership for $100, an annual membership fee, and a $500 annual membership fee for the platinum service. We also understand that a lot of communities can't afford that price, so we've created a model where we've created this nonprofit arm so that we can go after funding so that it can defray the costs for students. And also we approach schools and organizations, and they may be interested in purchasing for a group of students, if not the entire school.
So with Loveland, one of the things is that all of our information is on the parcel level, which is what you need to talk and work with cities and municipalities. So, for instance, with Detroit, using that, we've able to highlight that there's a $750 million gap between property taxes. That's the type of thing that cities are willing to pay for in order to help solve those type of problems. And we're also working in ways to make it more of a software as a service for community groups or development companies to just purchase access in order to add their own data to layer on top to look at things.
So currently, is the majority of your customers municipalities and developers, or has it gotten down to that?
It's kind of interesting, especially in some of the places where we're working, which is like Detroit, Macon, Georgia. We're looking at things in Pittsburgh and stuff like that. A lot of partnerships between cities and foundations that are looking to increase quality of life in areas are willing to help us come together to make those goals possible. So we've grown from about 4 people working to I think 13 now in the past 8 months. And we're starting to see is a lot of work that goes into getting this data from cities. So having those partnerships not only funds us, but also they're able to help lean on places that sometimes don't want to give up that data that is supposed to be public. So,
Great.
Yep.
Thanks. Thank you. So we have several stores. We have a store in Detroit, in New York. You'll find this interesting. I think we were shocked by it when we came to Detroit to open our store to sell our products, obviously. We estimated that it would be a certain percentage of the business we did in New York. The reality is the store in Detroit does 2.5 times more than the store in New York. And so we sell our products through our stores on our website, through wholesale, through stores like Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue and Nordstrom's, etc. The investment is a very, very substantial one, and so we make money, or we earn money by selling our products, but we don't make money for another couple of years until we start breaking even and get our head above water. But that's how we generate our revenue.
Great, thank you. Any general, we still have a time for, yes, we have a question here to anyone on the panel.
Yes, Ms. McBride. I actually have 2 questions. Do you sign up schools? And my second question would be, and if so, is it only students that are collegiate, are looking for athletics, or can it be for kids that have dreams and goals, but they need that roadmap?
Yes, we designed our system in mind for the student as a whole. We found the niche market with the student athlete because that's how we started, and we do sign up schools. Preferably, that's how you reach the masses, if you can get a school population. Yes, but our system is not just for the student athlete, because in our system, you can also identify the universities. We have every university in our system. We have JUCOs, trade schools. We also give them a resource of, FAFSA links and the NCAA links, all types of resources for the student to be able to type their essays. They can also track their scholarships. So it's a very robust system. And what I had in mind is that I just wanted to make sure that we dealt with the student's overall needs rather than just, it's not about, I can care less how high a student can jump or how fast they can run. I can care less about that. It really is about making sure that the student athlete is not used and they don't fall through the cracks. And you can go to a really good school, let me put an emphasis on this, you can go to a really good school, a Catholic school or what have you, and fall through the cracks because that school was not thinking or feeling as though they have a potential athlete or what have you. So it's important that people know that this system is for all students, no matter where you are in the country. And we do have clients in California, Mississippi, Louisiana, Michigan, Detroit, of course. Minnesota, we just picked up a school out of Minnesota North Community High School.
There's a question. Yeah,
Yes, for Steve. I'm not sure exactly where you're headquartered, but my impression is it's not Michigan. I'm wondering how much effort you put into second order effects, meaning when you get revenue, do you use Michigan banks, are you using Michigan lawyers, are you using Michigan advertisers, or is that money sort of escaping back to, wherever headquarters are located?
Right. No, the headquarters are located in the College for Creative Studies. That is our base. That's our headquarters. And we use PR companies, marketing companies, local talent. We've opened a second factory here in the same college, a leather factory. We've just opened a 70,000 square foot warehouse in Detroit. So absolutely, Detroit is absolutely part of the fabric of everything we do. So we absolutely will continue to reinvest, and we see this as a very long-term relationship. Yes, yeah. We're owned, just for clarification, the company is a division of a company called Bedrock. Bedrock is a Dallas-based company. We have another company called Filson out of Seattle. There are smaller companies like RealFX, which is a marketing and digital company out of Dallas, and we have other smaller investments in various companies around the states, but Shinola is based here. Well, some of them do, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I believe the hand in the back, and then there's a gentleman all the way in the back row after that. Yes.
Question for Loveland. I was trying to understand, is it accessible to an individual?
Yes. So anybody can go to whydon'tweownthis.com. And we're in 40 different cities, and the type of information that usually you have to go to down to your city hall or city assessors or things like that to get, you can just look up just by clicking on a property the same way you would on Google Maps.
So would you have data on liens, on taxes owed, and things of that?
Yep, taxes, what it was the last assessed for. We're looking at water data. We're looking at, we can tell you, it's funny, and depending on the cities, what data they have available. We can tell you how many toilets are in Miami based on the what the city says for each individual property. So it's very interesting depending on what the city's able to provide.
You have a question in that part, and just so my time creep, David gave me 5 more minutes, so don't get the laser beam on me. We're quite good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we've done different things with this. So we've done some marketing stunts that you may have heard about, like Uber Ice Cream, where we connect with ice cream trucks, and it's a hot day in the summer, and you want to get ice cream. You hit a button on your app, and an ice cream truck rolls up, and you get your ice cream. So that's been very, very popular. We even did kittens one time in Seattle, where you could press a button and some kittens would come. You get to pet and play with the kittens for a little while, and you could even adopt one on the spot, or you could go back. So those were kind of marketing stunts that we used our platform to do. We also have done some true experiments. We're doing some true experiments with using this platform for other types of connecting a person who needs something with a provider. Currently in New York, we have a product called Uber Rush, where we connect with courier service. Hit a button on your app, a courier nearby comes, bike or walking, pedestrian courier comes up. You give them your doc, you give them your architectural plans, you give them your fashion design that you need to send across Manhattan. They take it, run to the destination, and drop it off. And it's all seamlessly charged through the app. We have another service called Uber Corner Store, where you can actually request a ride. The driver comes and has a selection of things that you'd find in a local Walgreens or CVS. The most popular items you'd find there comes directly to you. You need diapers, and you really need them, like that can get delivered right on the spot, or cold medicine or anything else like that comes, you can buy it right from that person on the spot. So we're doing experiments like that, we'll see how those things go and what that may turn into. But there's a lot of opportunity for once you have this fabric of users, and the transparency to a service provider. Currently we're focused definitely primarily on transportation providers, but there's certainly things we're looking at in terms of other ways to use this sort of digital fabric over metropolitan areas that could definitely impact this urban entrepreneurship type initiative, certainly.
We got time for one more question if there's yes, sir.
I was just very excited to hear about the manufacturing in Detroit. I think we certainly be commended for looking at manufacturing opportunities. The engineering talent in this state is bar none. The creative talent, creating jobs that are sustainable in a manufacturing environment, and looking at Detroit and what Detroit is yet to become. I can visualize many more manufacturing opportunities based on what you're doing and what you are yet to do. So I just wanted to, not a question, just wanted to commend you and recognize you for the manufacturing center. The opportunity to create jobs in manufacturing is quite significant. I'd just like to see more on the horizon.
Thank you. We were going to continue down that trend. There's some things that we can't talk about today because we're just in the process of doing it. But the good news is our PR company, PR guys are not here, so I can have a little bit of license. We are on the cusp of bringing a factory back from Taiwan to Detroit to do something like that. Now, I'll probably be shot on the way home, but that's okay. The one other thing, very, very quickly, because I know we're running out of time, we would welcome you to come to our 60,000 square foot facility and see what's happening. We do tours through that factory on a daily basis, and if you're really interested, go to shinola.com, sign up, and make the connection. And if you have, fantastic, we welcome everybody. We love it. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank all of our panelists. We want to try and keep on time. And let me simply, real quickly, because again, the purpose of this today, so maybe to try to glean some things we can discuss in terms of lessons as I listened to them. Certainly, we saw that passion seemed to precede concern for profits, and so there was an initial passion or real concern for the problems. One of the terms that I always use, and you hear David and others use, is the idea of innovation driving success. But innovation doesn't always mean invention. Right. And I think you saw very innovative individuals across the business model, where they use technology to empower people. They use technology to maybe eliminate what had been a roadblock in making money. They leverage resources or repurpose assets such as the manufacturing talents that's in the community, or they were able to some extent, use a basic platform to solve their social problem and add multiple streams of revenue to make that overall profitable, and building on one of the lessons of our speaker, Dr. Robertson, the building of partnerships. And so it certainly has been informative for me. It's been a pleasure. Let me say in ending that all of us as entrepreneurs, or those supporting entrepreneurs, or those really passionate about economic development, we want to solve these social problems, but we're cognizant of profits and revenue and money. I'll simply say at some point, no matter where you're from, you will say, "Go green."
Tell you a little bit about how I got to that. I think that might be useful because we talked about why are some of these questions specific to an urban context. So I largely, for the last